Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is training, and we're going to discuss priming versus pre-exhaust for maximum muscle growth. Okay, so we have talked about each of these topics actually before. What we're doing this one for is because somebody asked, how do you use that information? So they had listened to the podcast on priming, which is podcast number 270, How to Improve Mind-Muscle Connection. And they listened to the podcast on pre-exhaust, which is number 254, Pre-exhaust for Big Gains Without Big Pains. So they had listened to each of those, thought they had kind of cool information in them, and they wanted to use each of them, but they weren't sure how to use each of them like together correctly and make sure they were doing everything right. And I thought that was an actually really dang good question and topic, and I was like, okay, so this is fun for me as I'm making more and more podcasts. So this is number 333, by the way. So I've made 333 of these, which is insane. But as I've been kind of giving everybody more information, it is definitely going to be harder to understand how the pieces fit together. So I used this experience as a renewal kind of like thing for me to try to remember to come back every, say 50 podcasts or so and try to do kind of like a bigger picture podcast. So how do we put together some of the information that we've presented in the past, say 50 podcasts? I thought that might be a cool idea. So this will be the start of this one for at least this concept, and then I'll kind of grow that in the future. So we talked about it. What is priming? So if you have not listened to podcast 270 yet about how to improve mind-muscle connection, what priming exercises are is as you would start a workout, and say I want to go in and I'm going to use chest for the example in this podcast, but you can apply it to, back, biceps, legs, whatever. It's all the same thing. So, but as you want to go into the gym and you want to get that one specific muscle to grow that day, that's your main focus. I'm going to beat the hell out of my chest, or I'm going to beat the hell out of my back, or blah, blah, blah. If you go into the gym and you just lift the heaviest exercise right away, that isn't necessarily the best way to get the muscle to grow. So instead, what you can do is what's called priming exercises. And that's why it's in the podcast when I'm talking about mind-muscle connection, is what priming exercises are is it's an isolative movement. So if I wanted to do chest that day, I would pick a chest fly, okay, against a machine or cable or dumbbells. And we'll talk about which one's best here in a second. But I would do a chest fly because it eliminates the involvement of my triceps, and if I'm doing it correctly, it eliminates the involvement of my front shoulder. So it's an exercise that really only uses my chest. And then what I would do is I would do higher time under tension sets, which allows me to use a lighter weight load so I don't get accumulating damage. I'm just going to get sensitivity into the chest. So for example, if I did a 60 seconds set of chest flies, and I do 3 or 4 of those under a decent weight that actually is challenging for 60 seconds, my chest is going to be stimulated. My nerve connections with my mind and the chest are going to be fired up and ready to go. So I will really be able to feel my chest very well. Okay. Then when I go into my heavier lifts, as I'm kind of shoving the weight around and trying to lift really heavy dumbbells or really heavy barbell, I'll be able to better feel my chest while all the other stimuli are going on. So while my triceps are trying to help, my front delts, whether you're while you're braced and kind of balancing the heaviness of the weight down into your joints, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in your head whenever you're doing heavy lifts. So if you prime, the chest muscles ahead of time, you will better be able to feel what they're doing during the big lift when there's all these other stimuli getting in the way. So that's the idea of priming exercises. They're not meant to beat the shit out of the chest and tire it out before you go to your big lift. They're just meant to sensitize the chest before you go to your big lift. Okay. Now, pre-exhaust exercises, they are actually meant to beat the shit out of the muscle. So you still kind of do the same thing. You still pick an isolative movement, but this time you do heavier weights, lower time under tension. So it might be anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds is a pretty good safe amount of tension, time under tension. And what I mean by that is you would reach maximum failure for that movement between 30 to 40 seconds. So if I was using, say, 50-pound dumbbells and I could only move them for 25 seconds, they're too heavy for this purpose and this example, okay? If I was doing 30-pound dumbbells and I stop at 40 seconds, but I really could have done it for 60 seconds, they're too light. So you need to pick a weight that between 30 to 40 seconds makes it very challenging and you can't maintain good form anymore. Okay? What you do for that is that causes muscular damage and stress to the chest. Then when you go into your heavier lifts, the chest is already pre-exhausted, hence the name, and it's already pre-beat up. So the heavier lift, now your triceps might get to help, your front delts might get to help, and they're going to help push your chest further and further into more damage. So it does help. It does mean your triceps have to do more of the work. Maybe your front shoulders help out more than normal, but they allow you to push your chest harder and further into damage. So it's kind of like if you thought of a runner trying to run a marathon, and they were running as far as they could, and like let's just say like a half a mile from the finish line, they kind of collapse and die. Well, hopefully not really die. Let's just say they collapse and they're too exhausted to continue. But a really good friend or another runner kind of sees them, they come over, they pick them up, and they kind of help them across the finish line. So the other person who's exhausted is still kind of moving, they're still walking themselves, but they're using this other person to kind of help carry them even further than what they could do on their own. So that's the idea of us beating the crap out of the chest, but then going to a movement that allows the triceps and front shoulder to help carry the chest further. So that's the idea of pre-exhaust, is you beat the crap out of the target muscle in an isolative movement. You then go to a compound movement and continue to beat the crap out of it even more. So when you do pre-exhaust and you beat the crap out of the muscle with an isolative movement before the compound movement, that will mean that on the compound movement, you can't lift as heavy as you normally do. And the reason why it was in a podcast titled Big Gains Without Big Pains is since you can't lift your normal heaviest weights, but your muscles already pre-beat up. What happens is out of a sub-maximal weight, so say I normally can press 100-pound dumbbells for 10 reps, but all of a sudden now if I did a bunch of chest flies first, I can only press 80-pound dumbbells for 10 reps. It's still going to create maximum muscle damage in my chest because my chest is already pre-fatigued. But my joints can handle now, they only have to deal with 80 pounds rather than 100. So my joints actually get to kind of take a little bit of a break that day. They would get a reduction in stress. My muscles still get the crap kicked out of them. I still get my bodybuilding effect, okay, my muscle damage effect. But my joints get to kind of take a little bit of a lighter day. So the benefit of having both of these techniques is one allows you to feel your chest better but still lift really heavy freaking weight. The other one allows you to feel your chest better, but you lift sub-maximal weight while it still feels really freaking hard and you still get all the muscle damage you want. So how would you use these is you use them every workout. You would just alternate. So one workout you would do priming, one workout you do pre-exhaust. That is the best way to use these for muscle growth. Okay. Now, let's say if you're doing muscular endurance or toning, these are still awesome, wonderful, amazing techniques to use. Okay. They're going to just improve the muscular damage you get from your training, which, when you control your nutrition, will dictate the fact that you tighten up and tone up versus body build. So bodybuilding and toning stuff is still muscular damage when you train. It's just a changing of your food. And then, of course, like in bodybuilding, you might lift a little heavier more often, whereas in toning, you might lift not as heavy as often. But you're still, in both styles of training, needing to produce muscular damage. And understanding that you can use priming and pre-exhaust techniques in alternating fashions allows you to maximize your muscular damage in any of those goals. Okay? Now, what if you're a strength athlete and you want to get stronger? Well, your accessory work, okay, so after you do bench, squat, deadlift, or if you're strongman, maybe do log presses, maybe do stone lifts as your maximum event for that day, you're going to still have movements after your main event that you're going to say, hey, I want to isolate this muscle because it seems to be weaker than the other ones involved, and I need to bring it up. Well, that's muscle damage. That's a bodybuilder. You're a bodybuilder. You're going to try to isolate that muscle out. And doing priming and pre-exhausting allows you to do a better job of that. So whether you're a strength athlete, an aesthetic athlete, okay, and that kind of incorporates bodybuilding and kind of like toning, shaping people, we can all benefit from this, and even endurance athletes. So, for example, I've trained people who do like ultra marathons and Ironmans and blah, 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 blah. So they might have come in and wanted to train to get stronger legs. So that way they could kind of like handle their longer events and longer races. Well, part of getting stronger legs, but keeping our joints safe, would be that pre-exhaust method. So they're already kicking the shit out of their joints doing all their other crazy stuff they're doing. So if we can lift weights to strengthen their muscles, but not have to have the joint stress, that is freaking, perfect. That's exactly what we want. And that's what priming and pre-exhaust allows us to do, is we can still train them to get maximum muscle adaptation, but we can reduce the stress in the joints, which is very helpful for all the other things they're doing that cause stress on their joints. So this is helpful for everybody, okay? Everyone. You don't have to be a bodybuilder for this to be helpful. Okay, so we talked about that you want to alternate these in workouts. Generally, for most people, there is small differences here, okay? But generally, for most people, you want to train every muscle in the body twice a week. So you're going to do kind of upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. That might be your 4 workouts. Some people will do push-pull legs, and that's their whole week. And is that better than doing nothing? Yes. But is training a muscle group once a week the best if you're doing no other style of training? Okay, say the only thing they want is like an aesthetic difference, then no, you need to train each muscle twice a week. But if you're new to this, you're just kind of barely making that work at once a week, fine, whatever, stick with it, okay? But the better or the best case scenario is training every muscle twice a week. And the reason why is our muscles from muscular damage stress tend to recover at the rate of every 2 to 4 days, depending on the person, depending on how intensely you stressed the muscles. Meaning that if you trained on Monday, your muscles might be ready by Thursday to Saturday, and if you wait till next Monday, you're just kind of wasting time. Okay? Now, like we said, hopefully I don't die before the end of this podcast. But like we said, whatever your training style is, okay, whatever your frequency is, maximize your usage of priming and pre-exhausting within your structure. If you have the opportunity to get to training the muscles twice a week, that is recommended, okay? So, the important part here is sometimes people will think of the pre-exhausted workout, okay, where you tire out the muscle before your big lift. They'll think of it as like a lighter day or an easier day. Bullshit, that thing is still going to be a miserable day. Just because you're using lighter weight doesn't mean you're getting less results. It actually allows you to get the same results, but less stress on your joints. So don't try to be all egotistical and think like, I'm never going to do the pre-exhaust because I want to lift heavy all the time. I will tell you, as a person who's torn 17 muscles, 6 ligaments, and broken bones under lifts, okay, while lifting I've broken bones. Don't do that. So I am a big ego dumbass, basically, and injured myself a bunch. Now I'm still stronger, leaner, and more muscular than I ever was. So I've overcome every single one of those injuries, and I'm still better off for it. It's allowed me to learn things that I can now pass on to you guys. So don't have an ego. Don't tear a bunch of muscles. Don't beat up your ligaments and joints just for the sake of learning, holy shit, Rob really was right. So just learn it from now, okay? So the best way to use priming and pre-exhaust is to alternate. Don't skip the pre-exhaust days, okay? Don't think you're falling behind on those days. Those days are still maximum muscle results. They're just going to help save your joints, okay? This is how I train now after I had to learn the hard way. So learn the easier way and just learn from my mistakes. Now, okay, let's see here. I'm kind of looking through. I got off track, so I got to look back at this. The other benefit of alternating back and forth between the training styles, okay, a priming day and a pre-exhausting day, is it allows each workout to feel slightly different. What this means is you're going to be getting a different form or different feel of stimulus at each workout. This allows your body, or kind of prevents your body, okay, to adapt to your training. We do not want your body to adapt in regards to learning how to lessen stress. We do want you to adapt to your training, that you learn techniques of the lifts and can kind of do things safely. But we don't want your body getting used to the training. So think about if we went out and we ran a mile every day. Okay, I always use this example because most people don't run a mile, and if I had to go run a mile right now, I would offer to pay you money, not have to. So, but if we went out and we ran a mile every day, the first time you did it, it's going to be horrible. Second time, still horrible. Maybe the 10th time, slightly less horrible. 100th time, it might feel like a warm up. So if you repeat a mile every day, your body adapts to it. It not only does it get better at the performance aspect, okay, it gets better at technique. It learns how to operate with a better oxygen consumption rate to activity rate. But basically what your body learns how to do is to lessen the stress caused by that mile. What I mean by this is you might have a big change in adaptation from the first day you run a mile. Compared to the 100th day you run a mile, you're not going to get much from it. Your body's going to be so used to it by then, you're not going to really have any adaptation, no real change. It's almost like the 100th time you run a mile, you're just solidifying the fact that you can run a mile. It doesn't really move you forward, but it prevents you from falling behind. Okay? For you to continue to adapt and continue to improve in your abilities, the difficulty of the stimulus needs to continue to improve. So if I ran, say, 1/10 of a mile further every day, and I did that for 100 days, all of those days would suck. I would make forward progress on every single day. But like I said, if I ran the exact same distance every single day, it's diminishing returns every time I do it. So if we train with the same structure, the same stimulus, the same feel every time we train, it's diminishing returns. So if you can add a variety of stimulus, if you can change things up, okay, by doing priming versus pre-exhausting every other time, that prevents your body from adapting as quickly, and you're going to get bigger returns from each training session. So for clients I write their programming with, we change up exercises every 4 weeks. And we find and that's true. Some people need it every 3 weeks. Some people could probably go freaking 16 weeks before they change it. I just like changing it every month. That way they don't get bored. And I have had aesthetic athletes where we had to change it every 3 weeks because we found the 4th week they were actually getting too adapted. So we actually have to change it more frequently, sometimes for certain people. But how we create a change of stimulus is I'll often change up their exercises. Especially if they're a bodybuilding client, we'll change up from doing like drop sets to rest pause versus like timed sets, like different rep speeds, tempo controls, stuff like that. So we have more variety within that. Whereas my powerlifting clients, we tend to have a little more consistency. That way they can work on technique of things. And but we still have a change in the exercises we pick. Sometimes I'll flip-flop. Maybe the first 4 weeks, their leg accessories were hamstring first, quad second, then lower back. Maybe all of a sudden I'll switch it up the order the next 4 weeks. So I just try to create more variety within what is still appropriate for them. So I would never want to create variety just for the sake of variety, to where we go from something that was really efficient to something that was less efficient. So sometimes I do keep an exact exercise because it's still the most efficient thing for them. And as long as they're progressing in weight or progressing in reps every week, that's also a good enough way to kind of create stimulus. So even though they have the same exercise for 4 weeks, they still have to move up in weight or they have to move up in reps at the same weight. Okay? So there's still that form of change of stimulus. But they're never just repeating the exact same exercise, the exact same reps, and the exact same weight. That does not produce continued results. So if you do that in your training, you are getting diminishing returns. Every time you go to the gym, you are getting less for it. That is not fun, so don't do that, okay? So what I want to do here is I want to provide a sample exercise day for priming for the chest and a sample day for pre-exhaust for the chest. Then you can use this idea and kind of create your own workouts. But I want to give some examples, okay? Real quick before I give the examples, I want to mention 2 podcasts that would be helpful for you to listen to better understand what I'm about to say with the examples. One podcast is number 54, Time Under Tension for Muscle Growth. What that does is I'm going to be talking about seconds of time under tension or how long an exercise should last. If you go listen to that podcast, number 54, it will make more sense as to why I'm giving you those different time under tension ranges. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can look up another podcast we have, number 214, which is Understanding Rep Ranges and Expected Results. The reason why I want to kind of give both of these to you guys is number 54 is specifically about bodybuilding and aesthetic athletes. 214 covers the other goals. So if you're a strength athlete, if you're an endurance athlete, it'll just cover your rep ranges and your kind of time and attention. Okay. So number 54 is helpful. Number 214 is helpful. And then if you do that, you're already probably ahead of the game. But there is another podcast, number 37, called 3 Parts of Muscle Growth, which talks about not only is your training important, but you need to be sleeping and you need to be eating right. So you can go through and make your training awesome and do all these priming workouts, all these pre-exhausting workouts. But if you're not sleeping right and you're not eating right, you're not going to get the good results. Okay? And there'll be nothing wrong with your training, but you're going to look like, oh gosh, that didn't work. I got to change this now. Now I got to change that. No, you got to look at your food and you got to look at your sleep. Okay? Okay. So we'll move on. The sample priming day for chest, okay, is I'm going to go into the gym. I'm going to do machine flies. You can do flies with a machine or cable flies. It's something where, compared to dumbbells, for example, machine and cable flies tend to be easier on the joints than a dumbbell fly. So if we're doing a priming day where I simply just want to wake up my chest before I go do my heavy weight, that means I don't want to pre-annoy my joints. I just want to pre-annoy the chest only. So doing a machine fly or cable fly is less stressful to the joints than a dumbbell fly. So it's a better choice on this day. And you can practice doing a max effort set of 60 seconds, then 50 seconds, then 40 seconds, then 30 seconds. So that's 4 sets. You do one set of 60 seconds, one set of 50 seconds, one set of 40 seconds, and one set of 30 seconds. If you take long breaks in between those sets, like 2 minutes, you will need to increase weight for those to match those decreasing time tensions. So whatever was hard for 60 seconds, you would have to increase weight for it to be hard now at 50 seconds. Or you can take short rest periods, say just 30 to 60 seconds, keep the exact same weight you had at 60 seconds, repeat it for 50 seconds, okay, of time and attention, then only rest 30 to 60 seconds, then repeat that exact same weight for 40 seconds of time and attention, again only rest 30 to 60 seconds, then repeat that same weight again for 30 seconds. So you can alternate that. So every 4th workout, okay, well, I guess it'd be workout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every 5th workout, so workout 1, 5, etc., etc. You can do it with increasing weight loads as the times go down, and then alternating the priming days. You can do keeping it the same weight load but doing short rest periods. So that again gives you a change in stimulus. So once a month you would have the exact same structure. That's going to really prevent your body from adapting because it's only going to get exposed to it once a month. Okay, so after your machine flies, you would then go to your big, heavy, large, I want to show off and move some big weight kind of movement. So we're going to pick barbell bench. And we're going to do it for sets of 10 to 20 seconds of time and attention. That's very heavy. Still bodybuilding, but it's really, really, really kind of strength-based. So, and it's important that you get stronger because eventually if you get stronger, you can then do higher weights at your higher time and attentions. So strength is very important as a bodybuilder too. So we do machine flies. We have a set at 60 seconds, a set at 50, a set of 40, a set of 30. Then you move on to barbell bench. Then you do sets of 10 to 20 seconds. Typically working sets, not counting warm-up sets. We would do anywhere from 3 to 5 sets, okay, of 10 to 20 seconds of time and attention. Then we want to move on to dips. Dips are a great way to stress your chest and triceps, and they also kind of stretch out your chest and everything from the tightness of bench pressing. And for those, we want to do sets of 20 to 30 seconds of time and attention. Then we'll move on to dumbbell flies, and you want to do sets of 30 to 40 seconds of time and attention. For all of these, you could do anywhere from 2 to 5 sets, depending on your ability and skill level. So that would be your chest workout. So for priming day, is machine flies, barbell bench, dips, and dumbbell flies. That's a great, great, great chest workout. Okay, you're going to annihilate everything you need right in there. Okay, So again, I'll give you a rundown. You can always email us, by the way, at brutalironGym@gmail.com, and I'll send you this handout that I'm reading off of, and it has it written for you. But, so machine flies, you do a set at 60 seconds, 50 seconds, 40 seconds, and 30 seconds. Then you're going to move on to barbell bench. You can do 3 to 5 sets of 10 to 20 seconds of time under tension. Then you're going to go to dips and do anywhere from 2 to 5 sets of 20 to 30 seconds of time under tension. Then dumbbell flies, anywhere from 2 to 5 sets of 30 to 40 seconds of time under tension. Now, 5 sets on all that stuff is really, really high, but it's still possible that sometimes that's needed. The stronger you are, the less sets you need. The weaker you are, the more sets you need. Okay? So that's prime day. That's how we just kind of go in there. We kind of wake up the chest with the machine flies. If the heaviest set we're doing is 30 seconds, it's not that heavy. So that way it doesn't cause too much stress to the joints, doesn't pre-exhaust anything with the triceps or front delt, because you're doing a machine fly, which is an isolation just for the chest. So then when you go to big barbell bench, you have all the freshness in the world you need, but your chest is kind of already awake and you can feel it better. So that is a priming day, okay, chest workout. Now, pre-exhaust chest workout is we're going to go ahead and start with dumbbells. We're going to do dumbbell incline flies. And it's okay if we cause a little bit of joint stress in this day because we're pre-exhausting. We're trying to actually beat up our chest. We're trying to pre-exhaust everything, wear it out, so that way our big lift for the day doesn't have to be that heavy. Okay, so we're going to do dumbbell incline chest flies. Why incline? Because most people need to work on their upper chest anyhow. So inclined angles at 15 and 30 degrees are the best choices, by the way, to work your chest, but specifically across the upper chest. So that way you don't have like a very flat upper chest. So do a 15 or 30 degree incline chest fly. And you're going to do a working set at 40 seconds, a working set at 30 seconds, and a working set at 20 seconds. So this is heavier than the priming days. And we want that because we want to wear out and tire out and beat up the chest. So dumbbell incline chest flies at 15 or 30 degrees. You're going to do a working set at 40 seconds, 30 seconds, and 20 seconds. Okay? Now, dumbbell incline press will be your next movement. And again, you can pick 30 or 15 degrees. Doesn't matter. You can repeat the same angle as you did the chest flies, or you can change it up. Doesn't really make a difference. But you want to do dumbbell incline press. And you're going to do 3 to 5 sets of 20 to 30 seconds of time under tension. Why are we not doing 10 to 20 seconds like we did with barbell? Because the barbell bench press is a little bit almost outside the bodybuilding range into the strength range. And it's a good movement to kind of build overall power of pressing. When you're doing dumbbells, it's harder to get into position, something that you would max out at 10 seconds. So you're almost going to be limited by what you can get into position, okay, to do the incline press. So typically the dumbbells that are going to be challenging but still possible to get into correct position, you're going to be able to do 20 to 30 seconds of pressing, okay? It's still going to get some strength, but it's going to allow us that effect of what we wanted, which was an easier stress on the joint day. So by doing 20 to 30 seconds rather than 10 to 20, it eases a little bit of stress on the joints. It makes it more feasible that we can actually get dumbbells into position for that. But it's still heavy enough to be very heavy bodybuilding work and get that heavy load onto the muscles for muscular damage. Then we're going to go to machine chest press. Okay, this would be also a Smith machine if you don't have a chest press machine. But you want to go to a machine version of chest press and do 2 to 5 sets of 30 to 40 seconds. Then you're going to go to machine or cable flies. Now that your joints are kind of wrecked and beat up, we want to go to a joint-friendly movement to finish the muscle out on. So you're going to do machine or cable flies for 40 to 60 seconds. Again, 2 to 5 sets of 40 to 60 seconds. So that is your pre-exhaust chest day. Dumbbell incline flies into dumbbell incline press, into machine press, into machine or cable flies. Boom! So those are the awesome workouts. Again, you can email us brutalironGym@gmail.com. I'll send you the papers so you can see the see the workouts. But that's what you want to do. So that's the best way to use priming exercises and pre-exhaust exercises is to alternate them from workout to workout. Okay? It works for all goals: strength athletes, aesthetic athletes, endurance athletes. These are helpful tools in your tool bag, okay, tool belt, to understand how to get the best results, but avoid injury and avoid stress in your joints. Okay, awesome. So hopefully this helped. Hopefully you guys like the idea of kind of taking things we've learned in the past and grouping them and putting them into a structure that makes more sense. Okay, or it shows you how to, I guess, put them together. So hopefully each of those old podcasts made sense. This one